In the picturesque coastal town of Swanage, Dorset, where the population barely reaches 10,000 and everyone knows everyone, a young woman's desperate flight from terror would expose catastrophic failures in the systems designed to protect the most vulnerable. This is the story of Gaia Pope, a story of trauma, institutional betrayal, and her family's relentless fight for justice. On July 2nd, 1998, Gaia Pope entered the world alongside her twin sister, Maya. She wasn't just another child born in the small seaside town of Swanage. She was a force of nature from the very beginning, along with her older sister Clara Ara and her twin Ma. Gaia grew up in a loving family with parents Kim and Richard. Those who knew Gia remember her vividly. She was the kind of person who transformed a room simply by walking into it. Her sister would later say that Gaia didn't just enter spaces, she owned them. Confidence radiated from her. She was popular, especially with boys, and became a passionate advocate for body positivity, using her voice to champion self-acceptance in a world often cruel to young women. But behind this vibrant exterior, Gaia carried a burden that would shape the rest of her short life. At around 12 years old, she was diagnosed with epilepsy and began treatment that would become a constant in her teenage years. Despite her medical challenges, Gaia remained deeply connected to the world around her. She loved nature. She loved people. She regularly fundraised for the air ambulance with her family, giving back to the community that had embraced her. By all accounts, Gaia Pope was a young woman with a bright future ahead of her until she met Connor Hayes. Like so many teenagers of her generation, Gaia explored social media as she moved through her teen years. It was 2014, and she was 16 years old when she first encountered Connor Hayes online. Connor was from Bournemouth, a much larger town about 45 minutes drive from Swanage. He was 6 years older than Gaia, 22 to her 16. Connor had cultivated a particular image for himself, the bad boy. But when he pursued Gaia, he assured her that he was a bad boy with a good heart. Eventually, he asked her out. Excited about her budding relationships, Gaia confided in a friend at the college. But when she mentioned Connor's name, something changed. Her friend's face fell. She had gone to school with Connor Hayes, and alarm bells were ringing. She warned Gaia about his reputation, whispered stories about an underage girlfriend just 14 years old when Connor was in his late teens. But Gaia saw something different. Or perhaps she wanted to see something different. She told her friend that she could see the good in him, and she agreed to meet Connor for their first date. When Gaia returned home that evening, she told her sister that Connor seemed like a nice enough guy and that she would see him again. Connor, it seemed, was already accelerating the relationship. He asked Gaia to come to his house for their next date to meet his mother. Gaia told her family she would be staying the night the day arrived. Gaia said goodbye to her family and left to spend the evening with Connor Hayes. What happened next would shatter Gaia's life. In the early hours of the morning, Gaia's mother, Kim, received a phone call. It was Gaia, and she needed to be picked up immediately. Kim and Maya got into the car and drove to collect her. When Gaia climbed into the vehicle, Mia noticed something was profoundly wrong. Her sister's eyes looked glassy, unfocused. Despite wearing what appeared to be a smile, it seemed plastered on, fake, a mask, desperately trying to cover something terrible. They didn't see Connor or his mother at the house. All Gaia would say was that she didn't want to see him again. Over the following days, Gia's behavior became increasingly concerning. She asked Maya if she could sleep in her bed, but didn't want to be hugged. She didn't want to be touched at all. The bubbly, outgoing sister Maya had always known had become withdrawn, anxious, and frightened. Severe mood swings and panic attacks became regular occurrences. The family knew something was very wrong. Throughout the next year, they took Gaia to see medical professionals as her mental health visibly declined. They were desperately trying to get her the support she needed, but Gaia was slipping away from them. By the end of 2015, Gaia was experiencing a full mental health crisis. It was then that Maya asked her sister directly if someone had heard her. Gaia couldn't speak the words aloud, but she wrote down a name on a piece of paper. Connor Hayes. She told her family what happened that night. According to Gaia's account, the evening had started ordinarily enough. She and Connor went out for food together. But on the way back to his house, Connor made derogatory comments about her body and told her he didn't like the outfit she was wearing. It was then that Gaia said she started to feel unsafe in his presence. When they arrived at Connor's house, one of his friends showed up. Together, they offered to make Gaia a cup of tea. She remembered thinking it was odd. Why would it take two people to make a cup of tea? Then she heard them talking about having a threesome with her, and panic set in. Gaia drank her tea. Suddenly, the room started spinning. She was convinced they had drugged her. That's when she told her family she was raped. Afterward, Connor threatened to kill her family if she ever told anyone what happened. It was only then that she called her mother to come and collect her. The family was devastated and furious. Maya decided to investigate Connor Hayes herself, and what she discovered was deeply disturbing. Online, she found other victims, other women who had been left mentally scarred after contact with Connor Hayes. Maya became convinced he had multiple victims, and while her twin sister was hospitalized during her mental health crisis, Mia continued researching. She found that Connor maintained multiple social media accounts, often using different aliases by altering the spelling of his name. One Instagram profile, still online today, contains images that are sinister in hindsight. Connor, naked in bed posing for the camera, kneeling with his face in front of a woman's crotch with his tongue out. Photos of small amounts of cash captioned, "My motivation in life." Maya learned that Connor did have an income performing sex acts via webcam, sometimes live and at other times upon request. She found videos of him alongside a friend named William Wright. What the family didn't know was that at this very time, Connor Hayes and William Wright were both under police investigation. A video of them engaging in sexual acts with a girl under 18 had been posted online. While the age of consent in England is 16, the age of consent for any sexual imagery is 18. Maya contacted the police to report her sister's rape, but they told her they couldn't interview Gaia immediately because she was in a mental health crisis. Instead, they interviewed Maya, who presented the investigating officer with everything she had found on Connor Hayes. Messages to underage girls discussing meeting in hotels, having sex, and taking drugs. Eventually, Gaia was declared fit for interview and gave her account to police. Officers interviewed Connor Hayes. In his first interview, he answered no comment throughout. In a second interview, he denied Gaia's claims, stating that she had stayed over and they had consensual sex. In police reports, officers cited that Gaia's account wasn't always clear and that there had been inconsistencies. But Gaia had told police she was certain she'd been drugged. A valid and obvious explanation for any inconsistencies in her memory. After 5 months, police told Gaia that while they believed her, they were unable to gather enough evidence for a conviction. The case was closed. Connor Hayes would never be charged with Gaia's rape due to insufficient evidence. The impact on Gaia was catastrophic. Her mental health continued to deteriorate. She was admitted to mental health facilities multiple times. Her family watched helplessly as the vibrant young woman they knew faded before their eyes. Fast forward to November 2017. Gaia was still struggling with severe mental health issues. On November 7th, she visited her cousin Mariana Polironis at her home on Mana Gardens in Swanage. Mariana lived there with her boyfriend Greg Elsey and Greg's father Paul Elsey. That afternoon, Gaia became distressed. She told Mariana that she'd been receiving sexual images on Snapchat from someone she knew, Connor Hayes. She was visibly panicked and told Mariana she wanted to report it to the police. Mariana called the police while Gaia was present. During that call, Gaia was so distressed that she could barely communicate. Her cousin had to repeat her words to the operator because Gaia was having what can only be described as a breakdown. The police told them to come to the station the following day, November 8th. But when that day arrived, Gaia was too unwell to attend. Mariana went to the police station alone and made a further report. On November 9th, Gaia spoke with a police community support officer who arranged for her to attend the station on November 13th to make a full report. November 9th was also the day Gaia had an appointment with the police and a community psychiatric nurse. The nurse noted that Gaia was struggling, but not in immediate crisis. That assessment would prove tragically wrong. On November 10th, Gaia visited the same address on Mana Gardens again, but this time something was different. At approximately 3:30 p.m., she was seen running through the streets of Swanage in extreme distress. She was barely clothed, wearing only a white vest top and black skinny jeans, no shoes, no coat, despite the cold November weather. A woman saw her and asked if she was okay. Gaia responded, "No, I need to get home," and continued running. Gaia's cousin called her mother, frantically, explaining that Gaia had fled the house in a state of panic. Gaia's mother tried calling her daughter repeatedly. No answer. By 7:20 p.m., Kim reported Gaia missing to the police. The search for Gaia Pope had begun. News of Gaia's disappearance spread quickly through the small town. Her family organized search parties. The community rallied. Hundreds of volunteers scoured fields, beaches, and clifftops. Divers searched the harbor. Her face appeared on news broadcasts across the country. But troubling questions emerged about the police response. It was later discovered that when Gaia initially went missing, police sent out only one lone officer to look for her. The officer in charge admitted he hadn't read all the paperwork regarding Gaia's medical history or her previous reports of sexual assault. As a result, he hadn't declared her a high-risk missing person. This failure potentially missed crucial opportunities to find Gaia alive. 5 days into the search on November 15th, police arrested 3 people: Mariana Polyronis, Greg Elsey, and his father, Paul Elsey. They were arrested on suspicion of murder. The arrests sent shockwaves through the community and the family. How could Gaia's own cousin be suspected of her murder? Detective Superintendent Paul Kessel made a public statement defending the decision, citing that extensive resources were being invested in the investigation. But the police made this statement without checking if Paul Elsey could prove he was out of the area the day Gaia went missing. He could. He'd been working away, and receipts proved he wasn't in the area. He was released without charge, as were the others, but the damage was done. The Elsey family had been publicly implicated in Gaia's disappearance, their lives torn apart by a police force that hadn't done its due diligence. Gaia's family continued to live in agony. Where was Gaia? On November 16th, members of the public found some of Gaia's clothes, including her underwear, scattered near a cliff edge. The next day, her family organized a search party to scour the area. And one day after that, on November 18th, 2017, 11 days after she disappeared, Gaia's body was found. She was discovered by specialist search officers in undergrowth beneath a clifftop between the famous Dancing Ledge and Anvil Point. She was less than a mile from her family home. A week after Gaia was found, the town of Swanage came together to remember her. But the questions were only beginning. Gaia's post-mortem revealed that she died from hypothermia sometime between 4 p.m. on the day she went missing and 10 a.m. the following morning. Many wondered why her clothes were off, especially if she was freezing cold. Medical experts explained that up to half of people with hypothermia experience paradoxical undressing, a cruel phenomenon where confusion and disorientation cause victims to remove their clothing, which only accelerates heat loss and hastens death. But while her death was caused by hypothermia, her family, friends, and community wanted the police to focus not on what killed her, but why. Why had Gaia Pope run away? Why had she experienced such severe mental health problems? Why was she a shell of the person she used to be? Everyone knew the answer. Gaia Pope changed the night she called her mother to pick her up from Connor Hayes's house. In November 2018, exactly 1 year after Gaia went missing, Connor Hayes was jailed for 21 months, but not for what he did to Gaia. The charges involved offenses against a minor between the ages of 13 and 15. He has never been charged with what happened to Gaia. For Gaia's family, the inquest became their only chance for answers. It took 5 years for the inquest to be ready for the coroner. 5 years of waiting, grieving, and fighting for truth. A jury inquest was necessary because local authorities, Dorset police, and local mental health services were under scrutiny for potentially contributing to Gaia's death. What emerged during those proceedings was a damning indictment of institutional failure. The police calls released during the inquest were heartbreaking. An anonymous police whistleblower revealed that Gaia had called police to confirm an appointment to report the unsolicited sexual images she'd received online. But officers failed to identify that she was in mental crisis. Control room staff were recorded telling officers not to transfer any more calls from Gaia, dismissing her as talking rubbish and taking the piss. In one devastating audio clip, you can hear Gaia in the background having a serious mental health crisis while her aunt desperately tries to explain to police that this is a rape survivor with PTSD who's been pushed over the edge by receiving traumatic images from her attacker. When the inquest concluded, the coroner found over 50 missed opportunities in Gia's care and during the search for her. An officer admitted that they had altered search records after her death. It was also discovered during the inquest that Dorset police were the worst in the country for rape convictions. Just 8 convictions secured from 657 reported incidents. Think about that for a moment. Out of 657 reported rapes, only 8 resulted in convictions, 1.2%. Gaia was failed by every system that should have protected her. She was failed when she reported her rape. She was failed when she reached out for mental health support. She was failed when she called police about ongoing harassment from her attacker. She was failed when she went missing. And her family was failed when police arrested the wrong people without basic fact-checking. After the inquest, Gaia's family released a statement. They thanked the search and rescue teams, the community volunteers, and the allies who supported them. But they also made clear their frustration with an inquest system that even before it started, had excluded so much of Gaia's story. They stated that the majority of evidence heard by the jury, including police failures in the search, was taken off the table for consideration. They wrote, "We remain concerned that this was not the full and fearless investigation we were promised, and perhaps the single greatest opportunity missed. There are no words to express our grief." But then, they said something remarkable. "If it takes a lifetime, it will be a lifetime well spent, because Gaia is worth that, and so are all of you." Gaia's family has found purpose through their pain. They've established a website, justiceforia.com, an incredible and informative resource. They've launched a campaign called Gaia's Principle, which compels investigating officers to investigate suspects thoroughly, checking for other allegations of abuse against them. By doing so, it will unite survivors' voices for justice and ensure that those who are failed as GIA was failed can hold police to account. The family has also created Gaia's Guide, a comprehensive resource for families and loved ones of missing people. It covers everything from organizing search parties to engaging with the public, dealing with the press and police. It's free to download from their website. Gaia's story represents the 1 in 4 women and girls subjected to sexual violence. It represents the 7 in 10 young people who need mental health support and aren't getting it. It represents the countless families breaking under the weight of filling in gaps left by failing public services. Gaia Pope should be alive today. She should be 27 years old, advocating for body positivity, fundraising for causes she believed in, lighting up rooms with her presence. Instead, She died alone on a cliff top, freezing and frightened, less than a mile from the home where people who loved her were desperately searching. Her death was caused by hypothermia. But make no mistake, Gaia Pope died because systems failed her. She died because a rapist was never held accountable. She died because police didn't believe survivors. She died because mental health services were inadequate. She died because when she ran into the November cold in terror, nobody found her in time. But her legacy lives on. Through her family's tireless and focusy, through Gaia's principle, through every survivor who finds strength in her story, Gaia Pope's light continues to shine, not dimmed by death, but transformed into a beacon for justice. As far as legacies go, Goss is truly incredible. Rest in peace, Gaia Pope. You deserved so much better. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you can be the first to hear about such real-life stories.